Hello, lovely beings. I'm JJ Rose. I would like to talk about when enough is enough. And another way of putting that is when it's time to stop or put up a boundary or draw a line in the sand or when to just say no. There's lots of different ways you can put this. So this episode is going to go, as they all do, from the very ordinary, everyday parts of you, from your friends, family, work, relationships, and then it's going to delve into the deeper part of you and into the spiritual realm. And all these things tie together, they all fit in. I promise I will make it make sense. And I'm going to try to give a lot of examples as well as some personal anecdotes throughout this peppered in. One of my main reasons for wanting to record this is not only for those of you who are in the situation, let's say, where you give too many chances, right? Very small boundaries, too many chances, and you're constantly feeling like, wow, I should have said goodbye or ended that however long ago. But I also want to give this episode to the people on the other end of the spectrum, the people who have been given too many chances when they know they shouldn't or they didn't deserve them. And also to the people who put up boundaries and cut people really, really fast. Because let's face it, there's a beautiful blend of both of you that are probably going to listen to this. And I think that's great. And sometimes we're really good at putting up boundaries really, really quickly in parts of our lives, but not in others. And then there are some of you that just in all parts of your life, it's like a one chance and that's it. That's a little bit limiting, right? But I want to make this educational for all of us in all aspects of our life because I'm going to admit to you, I am not good at this. And I am so not good at this that you're probably wondering, why are you even recording an episode on this then when you fully admit that? And this is exactly why I'm recording this episode, because I have had to deal with this so much in every single aspect of my life for the past two, maybe 2.5, 3 years, that it's become a focus, and spirit, as you know, tells me when to talk and just downloads all this information. And I really feel that right now is a good time for us all to have a refresher course of this. Because again, there's certain aspects of your life you're going to be great at this, and other aspects not so much on all ends of the spectrum. And I think it's really important that we think about how it would be to be in the other person's position, because it's very easy to be very self centered and think, oh, well, me, this is how I felt, without thinking, how does the other person feel? How do the other end of that situation deal with it? And even in some cases, how did that spirit feel when you did whatever you did? So let's get into it. Chances are there to allow others to prove themselves and also to make sure that there are no misunderstandings or miscommunications. And the reason I bring this up is because there are some lovely beings out there who, someone does something even minorly wrong once and then they're just done. They just cut and run. And that's a bit extreme, because what if it was a miscommunication? What if you didn't understand what the person was doing? What if they had a really good intention behind what they were doing, but they couldn't clue you in yet for whatever reason? So when you just cut very abruptly after one thing, it's jarring as well as it's also isolating. So again, the reason we give people chances is for them to be able to prove who they are. So if you're one of those people who has been giving umpteen chances by somebody, and then something which seems small happens and they just cut you off, more than likely it's because they've been vetting you or metting you this entire time and giving you chance after chance after chance in order to prove who you are. And either you failed that or you haven't risen to the occasion. Now, the other part of this is speaking up for ourselves and what it is that we expect or what we need. And I think it was Dr. Phil who said, you have to teach people how to treat you. And that's a really, really important phrase. And I'm sure we've all heard it many times before in various different ways it's been said. But when you think about it, if you're constantly showing other people that you're a doormat, that everyone can just walk all over you, take whatever they need from you, and not expect anything back, and you'll never say anything, you never speak up, you're showing everyone that that's how they can treat you. You might have the expectation inside that someone's going to step up and do the right thing and be a good person, but you're showing everyone that you're okay with this behavior. So then we have the opposite, right? We have the people who are super duper loud about this is how you're going to treat me, and they're very aggressive. And the slightest little slight against what they perceive is how they want to be treated, which usually is a little irrational if they're that extreme. That ends up turning into a situation where people say, okay, you're just too high maintenance. Like no one can meet your expectations. And therefore, I don't even want to start a friendship, relationship, workship, whatever it is with you because no one can meet those expectations. And also, as a fellow human, I am not safe in your presence to be authentic and real. Because the reality of it is we all have bad days. We all have days when we're not at our best. We have days where we are on it, right? And then we have days where we surpass anything we even thought we were capable of and we're just kind of in awe like, did I really do that? That's amazing. But being safe is being in a place where we can authentically be ourselves. And that is super important for building solid friendships, relationships, even, whether you're going to be in work together, right? If your work coworker, partner in work, whatever it may be, isn't able to handle you having a little bit of an off day and being able to step up and compensate for you, and you would likewise, right? If they were having a bad day, you take over a little bit for them. Is that even a good partnership? Like, is that a situation that you really want to be in for however many months, years, etc., right? And invest your time and money with someone that you can't rely on to be safe. People need to see that you are going to allow them to be who they really are in order to have a solid foundation of whatever your relationship may be. And listen, if you're on social media, I'm sure you've heard the reels or seen the memes or the videos about people talking about, yeah, I've been in relationship after relationship and I've always felt, nervous, anxiety, or depression, or whatever it may be, right? And they always make me feel like I'm crazy when in reality, it was my nervous system not being able to regulate because I wasn't in a safe situation. And how many of us have been in that? Where, let's say, you're madly in like with someone, lust, or even in love, and yet you're not able to be safe around that person. You're not able to be authentically you because of their expectations or their reactions. They can be themselves 100%, and you will take all of it. But don't you be authentic and have a moment because then, you're put in the corner or you're shamed or whatever extreme reaction they're having comes out of you. If someone tells you or shows you who they are, believe it. And this is an old quote. I think I heard it on Oprah years ago. When I heard that for the first time, it took me a couple minutes because, you know, especially when you're younger, right? Everyone is putting on a front. People are trying to figure out who they are because the reality of it is we have an epidemic of people who do not know who they really are. And if you've listened to my past videos, you'll see a theme where I keep trying to have you self evaluate and find out who you really are at your core? What are your values? What are your morals? What do you stand on? Who are you? Are you really all those emotions that you're portraying? Are you really all those pictures that you're posting? Are you the person that you have others believe that you are, or are you just you, a real person? And who is that? On their own, not with anyone next to them, partner, friends, work, status, money, whatever that is. Who are you intrinsically? If everything in the world ended and it was just you standing on bare earth, who are you? What are you going to do? That is being authentic. That is being the true you. There are a lot of people for various different reasons in this life who are being authentically who they are, even if they don't think they are. They are. Because let's face it, there are people who just can't help themselves. They have no clue who they are. If you were to ask them, they're going to think they're the best person in the world. And yet they go around, they treat everyone like absolute dirt. And everything revolves around them. But that's their delulu, right? That they live in. And so for them, they are being authentic when they show you these tendencies to be all about them. There is no reciprocation. Or if they do awful bad behavior and there's no guilt or there's no regret or empathy, compassion, like those are small things. I mean, we all know the old adage, right? If you're on a first date with someone, you always want to watch how they treat the waiter or the waitress. And it's true because people will slip early on. People will keep that mask up as much as they can, but there's always going to be some small part that slips because it's so mundane or routine that they forget. And it might not be the waiter or waitress. They might be charming with them. But when the person comes over to collect the dishes, right, not the waiter or waitress, whoever else, or the person comes to grab their napkin, or a baby walks by and they give a scowl, or they don't thank them, or they don't even acknowledge their presence, those are those little slips. And again, I don't want you guys to be super paranoid and like watching everyone's everything because that's exhausting. But I want you to think about where and when do people's masks fall off? And what behavior have you seen in those brief little moments that you've forgiven, written off, or just plain forgot about that were red flags for potential issues down the road? And I hear some of you right now, JJ, how is this spiritual? Okay, well, let me break this part down. When you are working with spirits, what is the one thing? Sorry, a crow just actually flew at my window. What is the one thing that, if you're Christian or you read the Bible, that everyone will say? Oh, you're supposed to met or vet the spirits. Right. So if we're supposed to do that with spirits, these beings that, for the most part most people don't see and work in these uber mysterious ways, why aren't we doing that with people in our lives? And when it comes to spirits, the first thing that I've told many of you to do when you see something and you don't know what it is or it kind of frightens you, shoot light at it, light blast it. And if it just keeps remaining, okay, then you start having conversations and you start figuring out what is it? What does it want? Remember the old Fae lore where they say, hey, if you ever meet a Fae, don't ever give it your name? Okay, kind of weird, right? Like, where did that even come from? But back then, a name meant something more than what you and I would call a name. Because I can call you many names, right? We have our legal names, and then we have the names we go by, and then we have our nicknames, and 12 of those, depending on who's nicknaming you what. So a name doesn't mean the same thing to us as it did back then. A name back then was like your name, your social security number, your date of birth, your genetic lineage, your family parentage, how much money was in your bank account, all of that was loaded into your name. Whereas current day, no. I mean, you could be John Smith and there's 800,000 of those John Smiths out there. Guess which one? But so you have to think about these things in the aspect of what do they mean back then and what could it mean currently? And I bring this up because there are these interesting little things from our folklore and our past and our old wives' tales that we've heard, and yet we don't give them a really hard think. And when you do give them a hard think and you think, okay, well, what would that have meant back then versus now? It starts to make sense. So if you were to meet someone brand new, let's say you're on a dating app, okay, and you were to meet someone brand new, and you're like, wow, this person's really nice. They look great on paper and they're cute. Okay, I want to meet him. And you reach out. Are you going to reach out and immediately be like, hi, my name is, here's my date of birth, here's my social security number, here much money is in my bank account, here's my education, here's my bio, here's my life story, here's my genetic lineage, here's my parentage, here's my family heritage. Would you do all that? Oh, and don't forget your address. No, of course not. You're going to be like, hi, my name is, whether you go by your real name or whatever name, and then you're going to start asking questions. And that is a form of vetting or metting. And the same thing with spirits. You don't just start bearing your soul to whatever it is that has shown up. You start asking questions. Why are you here? Who sent you? What are you working on me with? And, obviously, I have a ton of things just randomly show up. So the first thing is okay, if you're able to get through my bubbles and my boundary barriers of my home, I'm blasting you. Because things that are good are not going to be bothered if you're blasting them with light. It feels good. In my classes, I will have you guys do that to me. And I know some of you always want to go light because you think you're going to hurt me. And I'm like, no, it feels like a nice shower. It's beautiful. Or imagine being, it's summer, it's like 105 degrees, and someone hits you with a water balloon. And instead of getting mad, you say, thank you so much, because it feels wonderful. And I think one of the hardest things for me to get across to people without causing fear is just because something looks nice and looks pretty doesn't mean it is. I mean, let's not forget, supposedly, right? If you go back to the Bible, supposedly Satan was the most beautiful angel. So we know that you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. But it's a pretty pig. And we also know that people can put on faces, fronts, bravados, and wear them interchangeably and be perceived as something that they aren't. I mean, this is how con artists and scam artists are born. They're just basically acting or putting on the face that people want in order to get whatever it is that they're trying to con or scam them from. So I'm not saying be jaded and look at everyone. So please don't take it that way. But what I am saying is, in order to see who the person really is, it's going to take more than one try. For those of you who are my super fast cutter offers. For those of you who give, 14,207 and 33 chances, maybe we need to hone that in a little bit, right? Come up with a little bit of a better plan than the wide scale in between you two. Like let's find a happy middle ground with a little bit of an easier process. So let's start with spirits. How would I vet a spirit? So the first thing is, again, if you were to be able to get through my words and protections, okay, that says something. That means that you're strong, right? So I already know I'm not dealing with something small and piddly if you're able to get through that. Or do I have a chink in my armor? Do I have a leak somewhere or a hole in my bubbles? Okay, so I'm self-evaluating as well as also giving whatever this is immediate class or standing, i.e., I'm not underestimating it. Okay. The second thing is, all right, I'm light blasting it. How does it handle it? Does it squint or wince a little bit? Or does it smile and say, keep it coming? And when it says keep it coming, is it in a forceful tone? Like, yeah, keep it coming, i.e., I'll wear you out? Or is it more in a, this doesn't bother me, but I understand you need to do what you need to do right now type of way? Okay. And then we get into the actual, all right, now we're going to engage part. Who are you? Why are you here? And listen, I communicate with a lot of stuff, obviously. For those of you who know me, you probably know that on the daily, it is a bit wild. I'm never alone and I'm never lonely. We'll put it that way. There's always lots of activity around. But on that front, I am asking certain questions. Who are you? Why are you here? Not everything is able to communicate the same way as we do. So obviously, some spirits are going to show me images. Some I'm actually going to have an actual conversation with, like back and forth with words, usually telepathic, sometimes out loud if there's other people around and I want to keep them in the loop as to what's happening. And then you're also going to have things like maybe things are going to move or they're going to only be able to show you through certain symbology. I had one instance where the entity was not able to communicate with me, but when I had someone else with permission astrally pop over, they were able to communicate through them. And there's a reason for that, of which I'm not going into on this video, but I'm sure in time I will. There are sometimes situations though where spirits are not able to talk to you directly. You might be able to see them, you know that they're there, they show up in dreams, but for whatever reason, they cannot communicate with you directly. There has to be an intermediary. I want you to think of when people talk in tongues. You have the person speaking in tongues, you have the person listening, and then you have the interpreter. So there's always three in those situations. So think of it in a situation like that, except no one's babbling in tongues. It's you, there's the intermediary who's able to process and give the information to you, and then the spirit that is doing whether it's download or delivering said message. And there's different reasons for that. So, okay, we know that we vetted them in that way. Great. Okay, and then you get the information from them. And sometimes it's just a quick pop in with the message, like one and done. And then other times they show up and you have no clue, like, okay, why are you here? And you get nothing. And they just kind of like give you a wink, a smile, or a little nod or whatever. And sometimes that's just saying, hey, I'm here with you for this moment. But when they keep showing up, sometimes that's their way of giving you a heads up or a warning. So, story time with JJ. In the cases of more than a few friends, I have had where the Morrigan has shown up. And if you know who the Morrigan is or represents, you'll know that that is pretty heavy duty. And almost every single time she has shown up for other people, it's always been that she's shown up. It's very random. She'll just kind of show up and just kind of give them a look, acknowledge, and then she's gone. And I'll usually ask them what's going on in life, any surprises coming, any relationships about to end, any trouble on the horizon. No, 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 life is fine, life is grand, da 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 da. Okay. And then she'll show up again. And then she'll interface in some way of saying, like, i.e., I'm going to be working with you. And then again, I'll ask the question, anything going on in life? Is there any, storm brewing on the water or on the horizon? Anything going on? And it's usually, nope, 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 everything's fine. And then the life event hits. And then the Morrigan shows up as a reminder that she has been there before it even started. And she's going to be working with you through this. And it's usually a very, very unpleasant life situation. Not always, it's not typically death. These are typically big endings of relationships, divorces, endings of big, long relationships, sometimes big business partnerships that are going to be very messy. These are not clean breaks. This is not, oh, we were dating for 6 months. I really liked them. And then we broke up and I never heard from him again. He ghosted me. This is not a that. This is, we've been married for 15 years. We're completely and utterly enmeshed in everything. And now my heart's being ripped out of my chest, as well as now I've got to move, find it, like all the things, right? Like we're talking, she shows up for the big stuff. She's not showing up because you stubbed your toe. She's showing up because it's a major life event that is going to completely reshape and change your trajectory. And although she can appear very dark and she can appear very daunting, I have the utmost respect for her. I have met her and talked to her on a few occasions to try and figure out why she's showing up. And, I give her the utmost respect. It's a very heavy feeling. and I'm crying. It's a very heavy feeling, but it's also extremely beautiful in order to know that we have spirits that actually will take the time and show up for us in those moments in advance to give you a heads up. Hey, take a look around at life. Something really, really big is about to shake. And I think about death the same way. People are like, oh, it's so scary or this and that. Oh my goodness. How wonderful that there is a being that comes and collects you and helps you move on. For those especially who like weren't ready or have a lot of regrets about leaving. How beautiful is that? And then we have cases, if you follow the podcast that I've been on, the episode I did with Subconscious Realms about my very long relationship with Anansi, who is a spider deity. And I know I talked about it in length in there and as well as in Discord. But when Anansi first showed up for me, I was quite confused because, first and foremost, like, I've been afraid of spiders most of my life. Not when I was a kid, but there was like this one moment when it started. So, of course, having something show up in spider form, like, thanks so much for terrifying me on many different levels. Then I started to really vet it because at first I'm like, why me? Like, why are you showing up and what do you do? And if you read some of the lore on it, it's somewhat of a trickster god. And I was like, I don't have time for this. To be honest, I don't want to make time for it. Like, why are you here? There has to be a bigger reason than just you chose me to mess with because I'm not the one. Then I started asking, like, hey, can you cool it with the spiders? Because random spiders showing up all over the place, including a giant orange African tarantula in my room. I'm good, you know? Like, please don't let that happen again. So then Anansi would show up in other ways, not with actual physical spiders. And I was very, very appreciative of that. I'm trying to still figure out at the time why and what the purpose was. I'm in the kitchen one day. Everything was fine. Life was pretty copacetic. And I'm food prepping, right? So I'm cooking, I'm cutting up a whole bunch of vegetables. And I hear like a couple sentences in another language in my head. And it keeps like going on repeat. And I don't know this language. And I'm like, is this even a language? So I went to Google and I typed it in as best as I could with sounding it out. And then I started to see the letters pop into my head. And I type it in and I find out it's this almost dead language from Kenya. And it literally said, I'm sorry. And, okay, a little bit stunned because I'm like, you're sorry, but like for what? And then a picture fell off the wall. And it was a picture of a specific person and I. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I thought it was strange, kind of really, everything was fine. And then later that day, a couple hours later, all you know what hit the fan with that person whose picture on the wall had fallen down. And I felt like Anansi was giving me a heads up in advance. So even though that instance, immediately I could have been like, I don't want to work with you. I don't know why you're here. You're scary. You look like a spider. I don't want it. I don't want to deal with it. I I kept vetting it. I kept saying, okay, well, you keep coming around and like you're really forcefully trying to be in my life and I don't know why. And I've shown light at you. I've bubbled against you. I've done all the things. I've protected myself. You keep showing up. So there's some reason. And even though it looked scary in the beginning, it ended up being a whole situation that kept furthering me down my spiritual path and giving me insights and heads up that I needed. And nothing bad happened. And from time to time, he will show up if I'm completely and utterly ignoring all the normal cues. A spider will show up very randomly and I'll say, okay, hi, I acknowledge you. Okay, sorry, I haven't been paying attention. Like, what's going on? And then the messages come through a lot more clearly. And I'm not in any contract with this being. This being actually came at one point in a dream and said, no contracts. It was after an eclipse for 30 days. And I was able to get that message out, and it helped a lot of people. And the reason I'm bringing these examples up is so you can see these things come in all sorts of different ways and forms. And sometimes what we perceive as scary or we're freaked out by an experience can be a learning opportunity because this entity or being or spirit, whatever it may be, needs to come through in order to work with you for something or give you a heads up on something. And the only way you're going to pay attention is if it comes through in some startling or scary way. And I probably talked about it before, but I had one time I was doing, someone had come to me and they wanted a clearing, a very intense clearing. And, we're absolutely sure something dark was messing with them and was trying to attach or invade. And so I go in, I do my check, and the first thing I see is their entire spirit team just lined up. And the spirit team basically, everyone put their finger to their mouth, like, shh. And I went, okay, this is interesting. Not had this one. And then I asked, okay, like, what's going on? And they said, this person in particular is not listening. We've given them umpteen different signs, synchronicities, all the things, and they're not listening. And so the only way they will pay attention is if we start doing things to almost harass them and freak them out, because that's the only time they pay attention. And so please don't mess with this process, just you can clear a little bit of the residual energy, but like also don't give her a heads up. Just literally tell her you're not dealing with what you think you are. And here would be my advice for you to look at this, that, and the other in your life and just go on your way. Tell her stop spending money on clearings and all this stuff. She's wasting her time and money. It's literally a matter of she's not listening. It's those things when you get the same tarot read like 15 times and it's saying, stop this one thing. And you're like, oh, but let's do 16 just to make sure. That kind of an instance. So, again, I'm saying this because there are times when things are going to come through and they're going to appear one way, but that's not exactly the way that they are. And there are people who will appear one way in your life, and you're going to instantly judge them or think they're a certain way because of how they look or how they act or item there. And then we have the types of spirits that they show up and we know they're there. You could feel them. Sometimes you see them. Sometimes they, move stuff around or whatever. And you try and communicate, and there's not really much back. And this is the part of realizing we coexist with so much more than we realize. They live there too. And you can be nice to them the same way that you'd wave at your neighbor. Your neighbor's not going to live with you. You don't have to talk to him all the time. But you can be nice and acknowledge the fact that that's their home also. And there are spirits who they'll just kind of hang around, or entities or beings. Sometimes because they live there, sometimes they just like you. They're like those friends that you invite to the party. They never really interact with anyone. They pretty much sit on their own the whole time, kind of people watch. As a friend, they don't add a whole lot, but they don't take anything really either. They're just kind of there. And when you check on them to make sure, are you having a good time? They are. They just enjoy being around it. They don't really want to be active participants, but they just enjoy the show or you or the presence. So that also happens. And those ones, again, just shine light at them, figure out they're harmless, they don't mean anything, they're just kind of minding their own business. That's fine. Live and let live. And then we have the good ones that whether they're there for one instance or they're there with you for your entire lifetime, and you just kind of intrinsically know, you do want to keep vetting them though, because just because someone has been in your life since you were born or for a very long time does not mean that they honestly and instantly get a place at the table. And if there's something I can get through on this, I think one of the most important parts is to see people, spirits, entities, beings for who they are in reality. They are going to show you who they are. They are going to show this to you consistently. But if you are looking through your lens of rose colored glasses or just straight blindfolded so that you're just seeing people through whatever your imagination makes up about them, you're going to consistently and constantly have your feelings hurt, be in weird situations, or be harassed and messed with. And that is so important because I know far too many people, including myself, that give chance after chance after chance because we see potential. But in reality, we're not seeing who they really are and that they're making choices not to grow, not to be a better person, or not to do the behaviors or actions or whatever is requested or needed from them. And even in work capacities, right? Like typically people get hired because whoever is hiring them sees this amazing potential in them. Oh, they have the potential to be great for this role. They have the, history and background to do XYZ part of the job. And then the person gets in and like from day one they show you they're not interested. They're playing on their phone. They're always busy. They're calling out constantly or they never put in 100%. It's barely 10% most days. So maybe that person is burnt out, like they have a great history, but they burn out. Or maybe that person was all BS to begin with and you didn't bother to check their references because you got so delighted and elated with how awesome their resume looked because they paid someone to make it look fantastic. And you ignored all the red flags. Well, why have they worked for like 13 different companies in the past 2 years? It's kind of weird. And, why is it that they leave a place after being there only 2 months? Or why is it that every time I called and asked if they're rehirable at a previous employer, I was told no? Huh, because maybe there's a history of issues there. And the same thing, if you go on a date with somebody and you start asking about, like, why are you single or what happened in your ex relationships? And every single person they've ever been with was horrible and cheated on them and this and that. And, you know, there's one of two things. Either the person has a horrendous picker, which is valid, or the person is doing some sort of consistent behavior, which is causing their partner to act like that, if in fact their partner really did. So you need to start seeing the flags when they're waving in your face. Are you the bull where you're seeing the red flags? Or are you the toreador where you keep waving the red flags? Now, if you are the person that everyone keeps giving chance after chance after chance to, and then suddenly you're gobsmacked because these people just keep cutting you off and you have no clue why. It couldn't be me. There's nothing wrong with me. It's all everyone else. Our friendship was great. And then they just stopped talking to me. Our relationship was great. And then they just ghosted me. Everything was going marvelous, and then they fired me. Huh, time after time after time? No one wants to be your friend. No one wants to date you. No one wants to hire you. Are you the problem? Is there something potentially going on with you? Because I would say that's a major time for you to take a look at yourself and your behaviors. And hopefully, fingers crossed, when you get to the point where you can evaluate your own actions and your behaviors, and you have people in your life that, if they still talk to you, and even maybe if they don't, you can humbly ask them, hey, this went down between us. I respect the fact you don't want contact, but I'm just asking you if you could, out of the kindness of your heart, please explain to me what went wrong or what I did as to why you cut me off so suddenly after years and years and years of friendship and me not seeing anything wrong. Like, what happened? Was something going on with you? Or was something going on with me? Or did I do something? And let them, if they choose to, explain. And hopefully, for your forward growth and learning, there will be at least one person who will come to the forefront and will let you know, hey, it's because X, Y, and Z. And because you had kept doing this, I kept bringing it up to you. You never changed. You never thought it was important. You never thought it was valid. You kept doing whatever you wanted and running all over my boundaries. And eventually I just had to say, enough is enough and cut it because you weren't listening. Or you kept traipsing all over my boundaries as if they were hopscotch. I had more than a few of those. The other thing to think of, and my mom, a long, 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 long time ago, I think I was still in elementary school. I love the underdog. I seem to be like the champion of the people that other people gave up on at times. It's like been a running theme through my life. Okay. And I remember years ago, there was a couple people that were kind of outcasts. No one would really talk to them and didn't have any friends. And I would befriend them and I would tell my mom, Mom, I feel so bad. No one will talk to this person. No one will be friends with them. They're all so mean to them and blah, 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 blah. And then after time, that person would end up doing something, and then I'd go to my mom and be like, "Can you believe they did X, Y, and Z?" And finally, probably after like the 10th time, of my mom hearing this, she sat me down and she said, "Sweetheart, if they don't have any friends and no one wants to talk to them or hang out with them, there's probably a reason." And I was, "Oh my goodness. Like, we don't act like that. We're kind people. We always give other chances." She said, "Yes, you can give chances, but you also need to watch when you do give chances and you've told people, 'Hey, you hurt my feelings,' or 'Hey, you did whatever. And can you not do that again?'" And then they repeatedly do it again, almost out of spite at this point, or because they think it's funny. That's a repeated behavior, and that's now a personality trait. And that's when you have to cut them off. And I'm not saying if you meet someone who has no friends that they're a walking red flag, but it is something to look at. If they have no friends, is it a fault of their own or is it a fault of circumstance? And circumstance is something, like they moved somewhere new. Obviously, when you're older, if you work from home, there's very few places that you can go in order to make friends. But there still are ways, like there still are public things that are open that you could go to. And I mean, how is it that me, just a very average, normal person, can go everywhere and I can make friends anywhere that I go? And it's not because I'm all up in everyone's business. Sometimes I just smile or laugh or crack a joke or whatever. And like people are drawn to that. And part of the reason why people are drawn to that is because I'm being authentic. I no longer want to be a mold of someone else. I want to be me. And sometimes being me is I just want to be quiet and left alone. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Because other people also feel that. And they're like, "Oh, wow, this is like a port in a storm. I could just like be next to you and just kind of wait it out." Okay, that's fine. I'm a safe space. Sometimes people just want to be around someone who is confident and doesn't care if people are looking at them or aren't, or how people are judging or viewing them. I got over that a long time ago. Listen, I am who I am. My face, my body is what it is. Like, I do the best that I can to look as appropriate as I can for the situation, but I'm not going to send millions of dollars on a wardrobe or surgeries to try and look a certain way when I do everything healthily and my body looks the way that it does. I just do the best that I can. I try to brush my hair, put on makeup, look appropriate when I can, but there are times you don't want to put on makeup. There are times when you just need to run out and go to the store for a tomato. And if you see 42 people and they all look at you weird because you have a giant pimple on the side of your face, so be it. Like, you could put some concealer on it, you could put a dot on it or a band-aid over it, like all of the people seem to be doing lately, or you could just go and like let it fly. It is what it is. And I bring this up because I was somewhere recently and I'm in line and I see this group of people in front of me and they're all kind of talking. And this girl comes over, and I only saw her side profile. She was cute, and she wasn't wearing any makeup. She had very nice features, just a nice, pretty face, nice bone structure. And came over and she talked to them, and half of the group just didn't flinch, just looked at her and talked to her back. And the other half, you could see like they blinked a few times and they were like a little confused in their face. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what she's saying. So this is an interesting watch. And when she turned to leave, I saw the other side of her face and it was completely burn scarred. So half of her face was completely untouched, and the other half, she had obviously been through a very serious fire and it was severe burn scars. And she walked with total confidence. She didn't blink. I mean, I'm sure however, I mean, the scars were very healed. So I'm sure she's had to deal with that for years now of people are going to look, some people are going to ask questions, some people are going to look away, some people don't know what to do, right? But she just is who she is. She's not trying to put makeup on them. She's not trying to, wear a Phantom of the Opera mask and hide it. She is who she is. She's existing in the world. She's doing her job. She's just who she is. And it was really nice to see how the people in that group who responded to her like normal, like there's nothing going on, they were the confident ones in the group. All the people who were blinking and kind of didn't know how to take it and were like felt awkward about it and looking all around in a way, they were all of the ones who had all the body language of I'm self-conscious. I'm self-conscious about myself, and therefore I'm going to be self-conscious about her because, oh my God, people are looking at her, and therefore people are going to look at me. And who am I in respect to her? And do I feel awkward about it? Or do I want to be seen with her? Do I not? Like all those things. And so being your own authentic self is important, but also because there's a very tightrope that we walk on. There's being authentic to yourself with who you are. And then there's also, okay, I'm authentic, but that seems to piss everyone off around me. So therefore, if I don't want to cause all these hurt feelings or whatever it is, I'm going to need to alter and change some things about me so that I can have friends or get along with people or, not have everyone pissed off at a moment's notice type of a situation. So when we get to a situation where either we've cut someone off or they've cut us off, or a relationship has ended or a work situation has ended, you always want to take time and you want to evaluate, what have I learned from that situation? What were the highs and lows? What were the good parts? What parts weren't so good? How did I grow as a person? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, all the things from this situation. When I was in it, how did I grow? As well as now that I'm out of it, how did I grow? Very important. And then how have I changed as a result of that situation? Do I see now that it's more important to pay attention to red flags? Or do I see maybe this keeps repeating in my life? So maybe I need to look at myself and figure out what I'm doing to attract it or to manifest this to happen. Have I changed into now a jaded person because I got hurt? Or because I've been hurt multiple times by the same kind of person that the universe keeps shoving into my face because I'm not getting the lesson the first time. So it keeps getting more and more and more and more and more difficult each and every time. So maybe I need to take a time out and work on this so that I don't have to go through it again and have my heart rolled over by a steamroller. Just an example. It's almost like I'm passionate about this, huh? So I was talking to a friend the other night, and we were talking about people who are serial relationshipers. So they get out of a relationship and like a breath and a half later, they're already in another one or a situationship or whatever. And we were talking about how they and I have had a rule pretty much my entire life of dating of when I would break up with somebody, I would not date, talk to, entertain, or be with anybody else for a specific amount of time. And sometimes it was the length of time I was with that person, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on the circumstance and how close it was, etc. So this person also had it, right? And they kind of did the same thing. And we were talking about how healthy that was and asking each other, well, why do you do it? And so they asked me, well, like, obviously you've been doing this a long time. Like, why, and especially so young, why did you start implementing this? Like, was this on purpose or was this like something you thought about? And I said, no, I've always thought about it because I believe in a few different rules. First rule is it's not fair to anybody else if you're not completely over the person that you were with before. whether it's emotionally, physically, you're still intertwined with stuff, etc. It's not fair to now involve a new person when you've still got all these loose ends and loose strings and feelings with somebody else, because now you're potentially going to hurt somebody else for no reason. The other thing is, I like to allow time to elapse because I want all the energetic cords to be cut and cleared or healed, depending on the circumstance, between that other person and myself before I go enter into something else new. Because energetically, it's just like that old Bible saying, you don't put new wine in an old cask, right? So I don't want to take my potential feelings, emotions of someone else and mirror them onto somebody new, because I'm just going to end up hurt again. I'm not seeing the new person for who they really are. I'm looking at them as a replacement for whoever I'm still in feelings for. So that's also another reason. And then energetically, right? It's confusing. You're going to still be viewing the new person like the old person. And there's things that need to be healed. You need to take time to reflect. You need to take moments and say, okay, what did I learn? How did I change? How did I grow? How do I grow now from this? And what do I need to change about me now because it no longer works, being that I'm not with this person anymore, or this person isn't active in my life anymore? There was a state or way of being in which no longer serves me because this person is no longer active in my life. And this can be even with friendships and or work. Think about it, right? So, you know how different groups of friends, you act different ways. You have the friends that you can talk about X with, you have friends that you can talk about Y with. Very few do you have that crossover into both. And so let's say your friend from that you could talk about X with is now gone. Okay, well, you have your friend that you could talk about Y with, but you still do have those people you could talk about X and Y with, which is nice. But do you still want to talk about X? And I'm using X as an equation holder, not as in like your ex. Okay, work with me, people. So there's also the aspect of making sure that you are not taking any lingering stuff from that previous relationship, friendship, partnership, workship, whatever, into your new situations. And I'm repeating this for a very clear reason because it's done so often. And there's so many people who feel like, oh, I can't be alone. So the minute they get broken up with or they break up with someone, they're on all the dating apps and they're going on dates and they're talking to all these people and they keep striking out time after time, getting their feelings hurt and upset because they're not getting excited and they're saying, oh, the dating pool is a marsh or is a swamp. Okay. But it's also because you're literally looking for your ex in a new person, or you're looking for this aberrated Disney version of what you think you deserve without having sat down and actually looked at who you are now that you're on your own and what it is that you want in your life. As I've told you many, many times, when you do a clearing on yourself, on your house, on an object, whatever, car, name anything, you've just made a ton of space. So, what are you going to fill it up with? And if you need a very physical example of this, let me oblige you. Imagine you go in for a colonoscopy. Super fun, right? And everyone knows or has heard about before a colonoscopy, you don't eat anything for 24 hours and you have to drink this awful, awful stuff that makes everything you've ever, sniffed or eaten in your entire life come out of your body. And you're clear. Like by the time you show up for that appointment to get roto-rooted, you are clear. This house is clear. Okay? The person who is healed and the person who is looking at this as an opportunity is saying, okay, I have literally just rid my entire midsection of all of this old crud that I've eaten, ingested, etc. My first meal when I get out of here is going to be hopefully something healthy, something nutritional rich, something, good for the mind, body, soul. It's like a nice place to start fresh, right? You're clear, and now you want to put good stuff back in. The person who is unhealed and who isn't thinking in advance wants to go out and get a giant cheeseburger, fries, and a milkshake and shove all the toxic grease, fat, and nonsense down their gullet, or eat everything with, umpteen food dyes or whatever, right? Insert whatever there. That's a very physical example. Sorry, it's a little bit gross, but everybody poops. It's a book. The reality of it is, though, is that is what you are doing energetically when you are not taking time in between these people entering or leaving your lives, or spirits entering and leaving your lives, especially if it's big work with a specific entity, deity, or spirit. Or even if you're leaving a religion. I've known people who have left religions and they'll just say, hey, I'm blank slate right now. I'm going to be an atheist for a while or an agnostic. I'm not going to think about it. I just need to chill out. And some of them were in cults. Some of them were in religions that were a little cult-like, right? Usually these are, very, very big dogmas that were involved in their life for them to leave on a grand scale. And that's okay. Give them that space. You don't need to be shoving down their throat whatever you think is the next best thing for them to discuss or learn about. They just need some time. So if you know someone who is going through this, they just went through a breakup, or they just went through, a friend purge, or they just went through a major losing of a job or a major life change, or they lost their home or their life or whatever, right? Some deaths in their life. Give them space to do what they need to do for a little bit before you start in with the nagging list of what you think they need to do next. I have had friends and family who are extremely supportive of this. They understand. Some of them don't always understand how long I may need, and I'm usually pretty vocal. But I've also fallen into the traps of the peer pressure. Hey, you've been single too long. You need to get out there. You need to meet people. You need to this. You're going to be a spinster type of thing. So give people space, but also check in. Hey, is there anything that I can do to support you? Is there anything you need from me as a friend right now? And listen to that, please. And the reason I'm going off on this is because I've had some very kind-hearted people who will ask, what do you need from me right now? How can I support you? Great. Here's what I need from you. And then they do the exact opposite. And then when I remind them kindly a few times, hey, I had asked you to XYZ or not XYZ, and they keep doing it, and then it usually will cause a big reaction because I've already asked you this multiple times and you're not listening. So now you're going to get a very nasty reaction. And then after that is usually when it's going to come, okay, I need no contact or a hard boundary, or you're just cut because too many chances. Enough is enough. I'm going to ask you all a question to self-evaluate, right? Okay, I'm going to give you 3 items, and I want you to analyze in your life for yourself how you view you with friends, family, your partner, if applicable, your work, and then the world at large. How the world at large views you, meaning just average people in life, like kind of how you move through life. Are you a doormat? Are you a teddy bear? Or are you a human person? Maybe not a human, but a person. And let me give you the definitions. So a doormat is a lovely thing. People typically will acknowledge it when they walk in, but not always. So it's taken for granted a lot. It's minorly useful because you wipe your feet on it so that you don't track stuff up in the house. But that also means that everyone dumps their stuff on you, and very rarely is anyone cleaning you out. And very, very, very rarely is anyone taking the time to clean you or check in with you. You're there as a decoration. And then we have the teddy bear. It's fun to look at. It's adorable. And when people are in a time of need, they immediately want to grab it. and they want to hug it and they want to love it and it's there for comfort. But how often is the teddy bear being loved back? How often is the teddy bear being washed or sewn and taken care of? Or is the teddy bear just there for decoration? Because eventually people grow out of teddy bears, right? And then they sit in the corner as decoration, or then they end up going to the Goodwill or being gifted to someone else. And then there's being viewed as a human or a person. And this is being viewed with mutual respect. You have needs, other people have needs, you're reciprocal, you give, you have your own life, your own backstory, you are who you are, other people are who they are, you meet each other completely and utterly whole. You are whole, and other people are whole. And you meet each other there, and you can add experiences together, but no one completes you. You are whole. You are recognized. You are sovereign. So I ask you, lovely beings, what are you? And here's the part where I'd like you to be completely and utterly honest with yourself. You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell anybody else. But I want you to evaluate those 5 areas in your life and be completely and utterly honest with yourself about how you are. Are you a doormat in certain areas of your life, a teddy bear in maybe another, but a human or a person in the rest? Or are you a person in all 5, which is rare? Or are you one or the other in all 5? And again, we're not going to be the same for every facet of our lives, right? It's very rare you'll find someone where across the board they are a certain way. And if that is the fact, you can grow, you can work on it, you can change. The one part about the teddy bear that I failed to mention before is there's another aspect of the teddy bear. Sometimes the teddy bear is the one that everyone's loving. Everyone's wants it around. Everyone's giving to it, giving it hugs, pets, cuddles, all the wonderful things. But the teddy bear is not hugging back. The teddy bear isn't participating. The teddy bear just is. So, is there an area of your life that you just are and everyone is giving to you, but you're not reciprocating and giving anything back? Because that's also not so great. But again, this is your world. The last part that I wanted to talk about is compassion fatigue. And this is a part for all of you lovely empaths, sensitives, and just in general, people who have big hearts and who care, that I'm not hearing talked about enough. Now, if you've been a nurse or a therapist during the past 5 years, I'm sure you've heard of this quite often, and this has been in your realm of thinking and understanding. But I can tell you, probably for the common person, this is not being talked about. If you're a caregiver in any way, if you are the friend or the rock that everyone always comes to with all of their issues, if you are the person that you're the one that always has to take the lead or fix everything, whether it's in your friendships, family, work, life, in general, etc., relationship, there is a point when you've just had enough, and enough is enough. And I could tell you, lovely beings, I told you in the beginning of this, I am not great at this. And sometimes I'm not even good at this. And this is why I'm recording this, because I'm being completely honest with you about the fact that I'm trying to talk to you about something that I know is important and I'm trying to inculcate it into my life. And even though I know it, you always still have that, but what if? Or I need to do more, or I need to help more. I need to give more. I've got 5 minutes. It's okay, I can listen. But where's your limit? Where do you need to scale back in order to take care of yourself? Or when do you need to take a time out in order to make sure that your needs are being met and that you are being fulfilled? Especially if you're in an instance where you're living for other people or everything revolves around those needs. And if you're a parent or if you're a caretaker, you completely and utterly know what I'm talking about, because when you're taking care, especially infants or small children, their needs are paramount over yours. Doesn't matter what you need. If your child is hungry, tired, or throwing a tantrum in the middle of the mall, like that kind of takes precedence over you needing a new pair of shoes. unless you're the kind of person that lives your life where you don't care. Let the kid throw a tantrum, let them scream and run all over the mall and act up, whatever. Security will eventually come get them. Well, that's a whole different conversation. I don't think those types of people are listening to me, to be honest. But compassion fatigue is what happens when someone or ones has been caring for others so much that they are tapped out. And this is usually when they want to be left alone, they want to isolate, they need to be quiet, they need to go off socials, they need to not see people for a while, they need to sit at home and take a nap, get a massage, go, play in the pool by themselves, go on an island and be left alone for a while. And I can tell you honestly, I deal with this a lot. I definitely push myself too hard. I know that I do. I try to arrest it before it gets too bad, but sometimes in times of extreme chaos, when there's just a lot going on, it happens. And so I try to make days where I go off all social media. Or I try to make days where I'm not taking calls from anyone. And it's so interesting when I will let people know in advance, hey, I'm going to be on socials or I'm not going to be on my phone today. Like, please don't freak out and show up at my house and think I'm dead, right? Type of a situation, because that's happened before, unfortunately. So you try to do all the warning things to prevent and that, and to just give yourself some time to be. And it's always fascinating to me when those boundaries are put up to see who walks all over them and who respects them. And I did it as a test recently, just to see. I did need the time as well, but I also wanted to see. And what was interesting to me, the people that I thought would respect it the most were the people who trampled all over it as if it didn't pertain to them. And that was a little surprising to me. It's also a little disappointing in certain aspects, but again, I had no expectations. I just wanted to see. It was also interesting to me because the people who walked all over those boundaries as if they didn't pertain to them were also the same people that if I had done that to them, if they had put that boundary up and I had treaded close to it, they would have exploded and it would have been a dramatical instance. And it's always curious to me how blind we can be to our own stuff. And I hearken back to the episode I did about being a friend and what it means to be a good friend and a good human and reciprocate. And to my past episodes where I've done of get to know yourself, know thyself, understand your ego, understand how you are behaving in the world, and that there are consequences thereof from said behavior. And it's so curious to me how many people walk around and they think, oh, I'm healed or I know better. And yet the same things keep happening to them. And they're just like blind to the fact that it's their behavior instigating it. It's not all these other people. It's not that the universe has a private vendetta against just you and can't wait to send you 94 a-holes one after the other. It is quite literally your behavior causing this. And as much as I say this to other people, I've said this to myself. I own my stuff. I know certain aspects of my personality. I know how my temper works. And so I know when to take a step away or walk away and let that emotion kind of flow before I explode. I'm very blessed and lucky that I have people I can vent to who understand I just need to let it out, be loud for a moment, and then I'll calm down and I'll see how things really need to be. But I mean, we all need to vent every once in a while. Don't be a pressure keg. That's not healthy. But I bring this up again because when you do this, it's very easy to fall into the victim mentality of, oh my gosh, I'm a doormat. Everyone's treating me as a doormat. No, 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 no. Everyone is not treating you as a doormat. You allowed people to treat you as a doormat. And this is the part that keeps getting missed. We we all want to be somehow a victim of everything suddenly. I don't know why this started. Stop. Stop being a victim. Take your power back and say, okay, I have been completely overlooked in these aspects of my life. I need to adjust that. Don't do a hard adjust. You need to, let people know, hey, I've realized this about myself, my behavior. This is a pattern that I keep repeating. I would appreciate if, and then, put those boundaries down or those requests down. Some people are going to tell you to go stuff it. It doesn't work for them. Other people are going to say, hey, I'm glad you figured it out. Let me take your hand. Let's do this together. Those are the people you want to keep in your life who are supportive. The ones who don't care, bye. Toodaloo. Bye-bye. Okay, bye. The people who actively want to help you grow and then in your growth also see themselves and also see room for them to grow personally as well. That's where the magic happens. That's what you want to focus on. And that's what you can do in every aspect of your life, whether it's you going through the healing journey or someone else that you know going through the healing journey. Please, please, please watch out for these moments and accept them and take them in for what they are as a learning and growing opportunity. Hurt people hurt people. If you are wearing all your hurts and your traumas and your emotions and your victimhood like a badge, all you're doing is going around and spreading that to other people. Wouldn't you like to go around and uplift other people? Wouldn't you like to be a wonderful addition in people's lives? Or do you want to keep schlepping your stuff around and putting it on everyone else and being the Debbie Downer? Wouldn't it be nice that when you're around, people are super excited that you're around? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? Manifesting. Wouldn't it be nice that people look forward to your visits, your messages, your calls, instead of, oh, they're calling again? Like you've become this emotional creditor who's just looking to cash in on more energy and emotional vampirism. And if there's things from your past that you think about or you see and you're like, oh, wow, I was really not great during that time period. Okay, there's no sense in guilt and remorse. I mean, you can be remorseful, but there's no sense in carrying around guilt. You can try to make it better and show people that you've grown and you're moving on from here on forward in a better capacity. You could try to make amends if it's appropriate. It's not always appropriate, so please use discernment with that. And then there's other times when you could just move on and go and be happy. You don't owe everyone an explanation. Okay? They don't owe you an explanation. They were happy to do whatever they did to you without explaining to you. So let's just grow and let's learn and let's be in this together as a wonderful learning opportunity to heal, grow, and move forward in the best capacity that we can be. Be shining examples, shining, wonderful examples to others in your lives, whether it's your children, your friends, the people at the grocery store, your animals, the fae that live in your cupboard and the downstairs bin of your house, whatever it may be. Okay? And if you so choose, and if spirit shows you that it's time for you to let go of some people, ways of being, things in your life, etc., learn, let them go. And just know that when you let something go, you've made space. So be very, very cognizant of what you fill that space up with from here on out.